All right, I'm pretty sure every Panasonic user, every Lumix user will reach this point where these are pretty much their first lenses. It's always the 14 millimeter, the 14 of 42 kit lens, which is actually surprisingly sharp. It just sucks because it does not have a constant aperture, which those are the best lenses. Lenses that zoom and have a constant aperture are pretty damn good if you ask me. Then we got the 45 to 150, which is probably the best feeling lens I have, but I don't use it because it got some water damage. What happened was water got in the lens at the pretty much at the glass section, and it stained the other side of the glass, and I don't have a screwdriver that fits this to take it apart and wipe it clean. But outside of that, it still works. I just don't really have any use for it, and I never tried to fix it. And then we got the 25mm 1.7 because it is the cheapest prime lens that comes with this system. Here are some lenses that I would recommend, even though I don't have them, but I do know somebody that does. I did recommend them to him also when he got his G9. And that's the Sigma 16mm micro four thirds, which is a really sharp camera. Oh shit. It's a pretty sharp lens. Nigel Barros did a video on it once. I did consider getting it. It is $399. So if you have a Lumix G7 and you're looking for something and you're willing to spend that money, sure, go ahead. Another alternative is the 14mm Pancake lens that Panasonic does have. I do think it is a bit cheaper. Definitely I wouldn't put it on the same quality, and it just doesn't look as nice, in my opinion, on the camera. But it does do the job. It doesn't have any stabilization built into the lens if you don't have any IBIS. Well, get a gimbal, and if you're planning the vlog, I guess you can stabilize your footage in post and hope it doesn't suck. Another lens that I'd recommend is the Sigma 56mm, and I know I'm saying Sigma a lot, but with the Micro Four Thirds system, there isn't a lot of third-party lenses that you can get that have autofocus. Most of them are manual focus, which is not a big deal if you're a filmmaker, but if you are a hybrid shooter or somebody that just focuses primarily on photography, then that might be a pain in the ass. If you don't care, well, guess what? You have 7 Artesians, you got Makey or Mikey, whatever you want to call it. I think Samyang, which they're all pretty decent in terms of sharpness from what I've seen. They just have no autofocus, no lens stabilization, which is kind of a pain in the ass if you're filming yourself and doing any work that you probably don't want to have shaky ass video. Could help for photos as well, especially since you have a small sensor. So I would recommend getting the 56mm. It does, I think it's selling for $400 and something for 50 at this time on B&H or Amazon. I'll probably leave the links down below for you if you're considering getting it. Now, here's my opinion. Ditch the Micro Four Thirds system. Even though I did recommend those lenses to you, I am going to be honest. I can't justify buying any of those because I would not buy them. Knowing that the whole Lumix system does not have the best IBIS, and when you're getting a camera, you want... No, not the best IBIS. I just said IBIS. The best autofocus. And when you're getting a camera, you want good autofocus, and they don't have it. They have okay autofocus, which really isn't cutting it in 2021. So many camera systems out there are definitely better, and one of those that I would recommend is Fujifilm. Personally, I've never shot with it, but I've never heard anyone complain about Fujifilm autofocus. Never. I've heard people say that their IBIS isn't as good, but I've heard the same thing from Sony full frame, so let's just be real. I'd recommend switching to Fujifilm, and that's what I'm going to do. I have thought about it many times. Would it be worth getting a lens to just get different focal ranges? Because in the end, if you switch to Fujifilm or any other camera system and you don't sell this camera that you're using, if you're using some Micro Four Thirds camera, then you're pretty much spending more money either way. Is it worth it in the long run? Yes, you do get a better lens selection. You don't have to worry about not finding third-party lens. Viltrox made third-party lenses for Fujifilm. They do have pretty much all of their third-party lenses are about the $200 range. They're 85mm 1.7. They have a 56, a 35. So I'd recommend switching to them if you can't afford the XF line of lenses. But I mean, Fujifilm has pretty cheap lenses for the same price. Usually, they do have their budget line of lenses, which are pretty good quality from what I've seen. They also have a bigger sensor, and that's one of the biggest reasons that I would recommend switching from Micro Four Thirds. In general, I don't give a fuck what camera you have. They're full frame cameras, basically carry on the same features that the G9 has, just with a bigger sensor, and they decided I'm going to use the same mediocre autofocus system, which doesn't cut it for me, especially when their lenses are expensive as fuck. So not only are you paying for a $1,000 camera, you're going to pay for $1,000 of lenses if you want to really get into different focal ranges and have multiple lenses. You're paying for a small sensor if you're not getting the full frame line of lenses, which their smallest Micro Four Thirds sensor is still $1,000 for like their G9. You could spend the $1,000 on a Fujifilm XS10 or a Fujifilm XE4, and you've got a bigger sensor, better autofocus, and that's two things that they don't have. A bigger sensor to let more light in. Fujifilm has a better line of lenses, more options. So there is no reason to get this camera. Unless you are super fucking broke, which I totally understand. In that case, get what you can afford. Because to me, this camera honestly isn't that bad. It's just that it doesn't have room to grow. And I can't justify anyone who wants to do this long term. If this is your first camera, then great. But if this is the camera system that you intend to stick with, I can't justify that purchase. Because this shit is not good. It's okay, but it's not good. And I'm gonna repeat everything again. Micro Four Thirds, tiny ass sensor, expensive fucking lenses, mediocre autofocus, small line of lenses to choose from. Fujifilm, great autofocus. Heard people compare it with Sony a lot of the time, and Sony's always compared to Canon. Just saying. Large lens selection, more affordable lenses, more options, better autofocus. Come on, bruh. Better autofocus, bigger sensor, better lens selections. That's enough for me to switch. So you gonna see me on the XS10 side because that has IBIS and a flip out screen. I really like the XE4, but I kind of want if I'm paying $900 anyways, I might as well try to get the IBIS even if it isn't the best IBIS in the world. And that's just from my perspective. I'm not sure when I'm gonna be able to switch to those cameras though. That's just what I have my eye on, and if you can afford it, I would recommend going that route. Or if you want to get Sony, you can get a A6400. It's the same price as the XS10. I'm not sure if it has IBIS. I don't think so. I think it has electric stabilization. The XS10 also has that, so you can use dual stab and stabilize your video in post. So in all, I think you got a good camera, affordable lenses. If you switch to Fujifilm, cameras aren't cheap. Still $1,000. That's not exactly pocket change, but it is the price you pay for good stuff, and something that's gonna last you way longer. And you'll have tons of cameras to choose from that are way more affordable. They do have the XA7, which I think is more affordable. I've never used that camera. I don't know anything about that camera, but if it's Fujifilm we're talking about, you're still getting the same great autofocus, which is already a better reason to upgrade from the Micro Four Thirds system. But yeah, I don't know when I'm gonna be able to switch to that camera because currently, my pockets are broke as hell too. Like, damn, I know you and I we can probably relate. Yeah, I'm also saving. Well, not saving because my pockets are empty as hell. But I'd also like to get a motorcycle. I want to get one so I can actually travel and go more places on my own, and whenever I feel like to get more photos. Basically, I just want to be able to travel and take photos without being like, I need a cab and yada yada, I need a taxi, yada yada. So yeah, so that's one of my things on the agenda, to get a motorcycle to upgrade from this system. But yeah.